Good evening and welcome to KTN Weekend Prime. This is A Point of News. I'm John Alanamu. Here's hoping that you had a wonderful Christmas and a festive holiday period that still remains with a new year coming just next week. We've got lots of news from across the country and of course that strike threat that could threaten to ruin the Education Ministry's plans for 2015 if it comes to good. That and lots more stories from around the country here on KTN Weekend Prime. Thank you once again for joining us on KTN Weekend Prime. Our sign language interpreter is William Silla. Now, the stage is set for a 5th of January teachers' strike. The Kenya National Union of Teachers, KNUT, has given the government 7 days to honor the collective bargaining agreement it signed with teachers or face a strike. KNUT Secretary General Wilson Sosion says teachers will not report back to work for the first term if the government does not meet their demands. As KTN's Rita Tinina reports, the 7-day notice was ratified by the union's National Executive Council.
The last quarter of the year saw the giant National Union of Teachers and the government engage in a tussle over salaries and allowances. In October, the union issued a 21-day strike notice, but withdrew the notice in September to pave way for negotiations and allow smooth operations during national exams. Solidarity forever. With slow progress in negotiations, the annual Delegates Conference earlier this month passed a resolution supporting industrial action. And now, the union's top decision-making organ is putting the government on notice.
You have a window of opportunity of 7 days to make a difference, failure of which you will witness the force that you've never seen.
If the government fails to act within 7 days beginning Monday the 29th, the union says teachers will not report back to work for the first term.
Wewe mzazi, wewe mtoto wa shule, baki nyumbani kwa sababu huyu mwalimu atakuwa hayuko.
There will be no teacher in any classroom all over the Republic of Kenya, from primary schools, secondary schools, and tertiary institutions.
And in this case, you can use by as 22/7.
Teachers have a raft of demands, among them a review of salaries, allowances, and job grades for school heads. The union also wants the Salaries and Remuneration Commission to withdraw a circular raising the house allowance for cabinet secretaries to 200,000 shillings a month and that of principal secretaries to 150,000 shillings, effective on the first day of the new year.
Lakini Sara Serem anapita hapo karibu hapo akituziba ili tusiweze kuzungumza na mwajiri wetu, na tunamwambia kaa kando.
Teachers held a month-long strike last year that saw top union officials charged in court over contempt of court charges for failing to honor a court order outlawing the strike. The strike was called off on the 17th of July after the union reached a deal with the government. More than a year later, teachers and the government are yet to find a middle ground, and the protracted standoff may be far from over. Rita Tinina, KTN.
Let's go to Trans Nzoia now, where 6 people were killed overnight in clashes over a controversial piece of land. Families living in Mengo Farm claim that the 6 were in a group of rowdy youth sent to torch their houses. KTN's Ashamwilu reports.
Dodged by a controversial land dispute for years, Mengo Farm in Saboti constituency is yet again at the center of another investigation. A night attack on the squatter families living here left 6 people dead and dozens of houses burnt down. By morning, these 5 suspects were the main puzzle that police officers had to deal with in attempts to know what exactly had happened here. The village now tense. Those who witnessed the attacks could hardly narrate their experiences.
Wakakuja wengi wengine wako na mshale, panka, hivi boko nyaunyo, wengine mtarimpo, yani wamebeba silaha kila haina. Nani nikamuuliza tu nini mbaya, nini mbaya? Wakasema usiongee, ndio utachukua sisi, hii shamba sio yenyu, ndio mtachukua hii shamba sio yenyu.
It is suspected that a man alleged to own 706 acres of this land had sent rowdy youth to drive out the squatter families. But the incident left the attackers on the receiving end as angry squatters turned on them, killing 6 on the spot. With local leaders having to calm the angry villagers, police have also been accused of ignoring calls by the residents during the night attack.
Mimi mwenyewe nilitumia gari langu kuwachukua askari pale support, karibu askari 6 hivi. Hawakuwa na magari na walikuwa wana habari, wamejulishwa mapema.
Polisi wetu waweze kupewa magari. Nimepita police station nikabeba maafisa wengine. Kwa sababu gani? Hatuna magari na silaha za kutosha.
Nyeri County has been marred with numerous land disputes, some dating back 40 years. The number of squatters and landless residents has also been on the rise. The incident at Mengo Farm now reignites a dispute that has seen even the Trans-Nzoia police boss threatened over the controversy. Ashimwilu, KTN.
A 36-year-old man is being held at the Kakamega police station over allegations of killing his wife. His neighbors claim that the suspect, Daniel Imonja Shimoli, may have hacked his wife to death after she failed to bring home a chicken for Christmas.
Shanderema village of Kambiri location in Kakamega County woke up to the tragic news that one of their own had been hacked to death inside her own house. The suspect, Daniel Imonja Shimoli, had allegedly chopped his inherited wife to pieces using a farm implement.
Mambo ambayo walikuwa nayo ambayo ukumbi imefika ikawa kifo itokee sikujua, sababu nyumba tuko na sikukuu ya kawaida, wameandaa mambo yao, naona nyama iko pale, ngangara mafuta. Sasa ukumbi sijui imetokea kwa chakula au imetokea pande gani.
There are several accounts as to what might have led to the murder in the home, but the narrative that seems to run through all these accounts is that the victim came home bearing 2 kilos of meat to prepare for the husband. Some claim the husband may have wanted chicken instead of beef.
Huyu mzee mwenye amemchukua ni namba 2, si namba wa kwanza alikufa aliaka. Huyu ni namba ya 2. Sasa hao watu walikuwa wanapendana, lakini mwishowe siku wamefika wapi ndio wakauana. Siku tutachua ni nyama, tutachua ni pombe, tutachua ni nini, niko na huzuni.
But it appears violence in Daniel Shimoli's homestead was not something new to the neighbors.
Wameshawahi pigana wakati mwingine, hata akamdunga sehemu za siri, akamdunga mpaka karibu afe. Wakapeleka hospitali, jirani akamwokoa, akapeleka hospitali, alimpata kwa miwa. Wakakaa wakamtibu, tena akaamua kurudi kwa nyumba yake. Sasa huwa kila wakati ukumbi inakuanga, hata usiku wa manane nikiamua.
The suspect was immediately taken into custody, and access to him has been limited, since it is feared that the villagers might want to exact their own kind of justice on him.
Kupepa mtu kwa nyumba yako, mtu akutoka kwa nyumba yako, akupepe, aenda akuwe kabisa ukuve, huyo mtu asiruti.
The victim's body was found lying in a pool of blood inside her house.
Death over chicken. Very strange times we live in. Now, on to some news that could point to a key military coup, an intelligence coup for the military. Military officials have said a top leader of Somalia's Al-Qaeda-affiliated Al-Shabaab rebels, intelligence chief Zakaria Ismail Ahmed Hersi, has surrendered to the government and African Union forces and is now in custody. KTN's associate editor Noah Otieno reports.
Al-Shabaab's Zakaria Ismail Ahmed Hersi, said to have been a top intelligence official, surrendered in the Gedo region, where Somalia borders Kenya and Ethiopia. According to a regional military official, Zakaria Ismail Ahmed Hersi was in charge of intelligence and finances inside the Al-Shabaab. The U.S. government placed a bounty of $3 million on Zakaria's head under the Rewards for Justice program in 2012. It is not clear whether at the time of his surrender, Zakaria was still holding the same rank, since intelligence sources had indicated that he had fallen out with some of the Al-Shabaab commanders who are fiercely loyal to Abdi Godane, the Al-Shabaab leader killed in a U.S. airstrike in September. It's also believed that Zakaria's surrender may be in reaction to a recent split and infighting within the Al-Shabaab, where the slain leader Godane eliminated many of his rivals. The new leader, Ahmad Umar Ubaida, is also said to be effecting strict internal power structures. Zakaria is said to have been hiding in a house in the Gedo region, from where he made contact with government officials in order to hand himself in. AMISOM forces are currently fighting the Al-Shabaab in Somalia to help stop the insurgency against the government of Somalia. Now, Tino, KTN Weekend Prime.
In news related to the terror crisis that has been faced by the country, the Senate has been recalled to a special sitting next week, Tuesday, the 30th of December, to discuss a motion about the recently enacted Security Laws Amendment Act of 2014. Senate Speaker Ekwe Ethuro recalled the upper house in a special Gazette notice of December the 24th after Minority Leader Moses Wetangula, in support of 15 other senators, wrote to the Speaker requesting he recalls the House. Wetangula and the senators maintain that the law has provisions which affect operations of the counties. The National Assembly approved the legislation during last week's Thursday special sitting that was marred by chaos. Homa Bay senatorial hopeful Silas Jakakimba has now joined the United Democratic Movement, UDM. Jakakimba's move to UDM comes just 2 days after another ODM hopeful, Fred Rabongo, also announced he was decamping to another party after ODM gave a direct nomination to the late Otieno Kajwang's brother Moses Kajwang. KTN Samo Gina has more.
The handpicking of Moses Kajwang as ODM aspirant for Homa Bay senatorial seat has exposed the fickle unity within the party. The direct nomination has set off defections to other political parties for those intending to contest the Homa Bay seat. Former Prime Minister Raila Odinga's top aide Silas Jakakimba has ditched the ODM party for a CORD affiliate party, United Democratic Movement UDM. Jakakimba branding the Orange Party and its National Elections Board undemocratic.
This was a slap on the democratic principles which ground the ideals of the Orange Democratic Movement Party. An independent observer or bystander would be forgiven to believe that violence attracts rewards in a party that actually stands on democracy tenets.
The former Raila aide has also blamed the CORD's top leadership of developing party dictatorship. Jakakimba says the directive of CORD fielding a single candidate was dictatorial that almost locked him up from acquiring a political outfit to springboard his senatorial ambitions.
We have agreed in principle that as a coalition, once we issue one certificate to one of the coalition members, then that is sealed. So we will be facing our opponents from the other side, but not from within other CORD affiliate parties.
It's unfortunate that the rest of them all denied us a platform, at least 6 of them. And we thank the UDM and its leadership under Party Leader General Koech for braving the storm.
Rattled by the direct nomination of Moses Kajwang, Jakakimba resigned from being an ODM member. Another aspirant, Fred Rabongo, was also stung by the direct nomination. Apart from Jakakimba and Rabongo, Hilary Alila, who was also contesting for the party's nomination ticket, will be vying as an independent candidate.
The decision which was made to give the people of Homa Bay a party which I felt was not done democratically.
While other candidates pledged to remain in the party after the botched nomination exercise and the subsequent selection exercise, the fallout remains imminent. Former Prime Minister's Office Chief of Staff Karolio Mondi, who was also eyeing the Senate seat, has shelved his ambition, saying he will continue to support the party. The disgruntled candidates rubbished claims by the party's elections board that on settling on Moses Kajwang, an internal survey was conducted on the popularity of the candidates. The aspirants claim ODM rewarded a family name at the expense of fair nomination exercise. But it is not just ODM that is having issues in the Homa Bay senatorial race.
The party is unwilling to issue a nomination certificate to TNA candidates.
Other parties have represented their people, even their people who are in ODM and have shifted to other parties. What about the Green Party?
Samogina, KTN.
Away from politics, to a rather interesting story, talking about and getting tested for HIV and sexually transmitted infections is often an embarrassing subject. Now, knowing one's status takes a lot of courage, especially in a testing clinic. But did you know that you can actually get tested for an STI as well as HIV online? KTN's Dorcas Wangira has the details.
It is your health, it is under your care, it is you to decide how you want to be tested.
STIs, HIV. How do you even start the conversation? How do I know if I have an STI? Perhaps, or...
Look, sweetie, I might have niliteleza huko kidogo, yeah?
It is an odd subject with layers and layers of fear and discomfort.
Kama zamani walikuwa wanatengwa. Hiyo ndio inafanya wengine wagope kupimwa.
Wengi hawana mapato na wengi hawana elimu.
They fear to, maybe people will start thinking bad about them.
Privacy, ndio sababu ndio privacy. Watu wanatakanga tu kama ni mambo inamuhusu yeye. Hiyo mambo ikuwe tu within yeye, either ikienda mbali na bibi yake ama partner wake.
Dr. Ahmed Kalebi, the MD and pathologist in charge of Lancet, a group of laboratories in East Africa, tells us that most people are afraid of being judged and losing their confidentiality for medical records that require identification.
Because it's embarrassing when you don't want anyone to know what is going on.
There's a gentleman here who has refused to give us his ID number, who has refused and is giving us a name which clearly is not Malcolm X.
Magonjwa yanakuja kuwamaliza kama imefikia mwisho kabisa.
Iko na HIV nini kuongea kuhusu kwako ndio unaokopa hata jua nawe sema you just persevere on your own, unavumilia tu wewe mwenyewe.
As a country, the war against HIV and AIDS is far from over. Testing remains crucial. To empower more people to know their status and take control of their healthcare, Lancet has partnered with Better to Know to give Kenyans an online, a digital platform that guarantees confidentiality and anonymity. The service, fast available in the UK, is also in South Africa and has a customized Better to Know Kenyan website. Based on a date you suspect that something out of the ordinary happened and known symptoms, you select your preferred test.
With the help of experts who are linked to the Better to Know platform. And once they have chosen the test they require, the whole process is done in a completely anonymous way, whereby the individual will be given a PIN code, and with that PIN code, there will be no need of the individual identifying himself to the entire system. Once the individual has paid for the test, the individual can then choose whether to come to the laboratory and have the samples collected in the laboratory but in a completely anonymous way, or for the laboratory people from Lancet to come to the individual's facility, whether it's at home or in the office, the lab. You don't have to go and see a doctor physically. All this is done online, completely electronic. The only thing is that at a particular point, somebody will have to get that sample from you. If it's urine and you submit it in a urine container, you can literally come and drop it in the lab, leave it there and walk away without talking to anybody. Yeah, there's a specimen drop-off point. If it is blood which needs to be collected, you can just come and say, please collect my blood, it's for PIN code number this, the person collects your blood, and that's it. You don't even need to discuss, I've been having this.
You also have the option of selecting the STI clinic nearest to you. Once your results are determined, it is your decision how you want to receive them, whether via phone, SMS, email, or personally. The third party, Better to Know, which gives back the results to the owner of the PIN, can also give the option of a healthcare specialist for further treatment, prescriptions, and counseling.
Test you or not, if you had the illness, you have it anyway. So if we test you, at least you are empowered. That's the whole point. You are empowered to make a decision and to do something about it.
Still in the rolling phase, it is hoped that more and more Kenyans will take full advantage. And contrary to many naysayers, this isn't meant to discourage visiting centers or visits to doctors. Dr. Kalebi says that knowing one's status is bound to increase further consultation.
100% anonymity and confidentiality is guaranteed with just the click of a button. But even with all that, the most important thing is that will that decision to get tested. After all, it is better to know. Dorcas Wangira, KTN, Nairobi.
Now, all roads led to Bumba Beach in Samia in Busia County as hundreds of Kenyans thronged the lakeside to participate in the popular Samia Festival, which was filled with pomp and color. Take a look.
At the crack of dawn, Bumba Beach, usually quiet, is now filled with the chatter of hundreds of people. At 11 a.m., the Samia Festival begins. To start off, a wrestling match between Port Victoria and CO Port. After a nail-biting session, Port Victoria wins. After that, all eyes are on the lake as groups battle it out in the boat race, after which Team Obwabo takes the trophy. Besides wrestling and boat rowing, other competitions included dancing and taekwondo.
Tourism is not just about wildlife in the Mara, in the Tsavo, in the Indus Valley. There is more to tourism, and there are many unexploited resources across the country.
Samia Cultural Festival is an annual feat that falls on Boxing Day. Catherine Omwando, KTN.
Now, believers from all over the country trooped to Mount Kenya region where they held prayers at the foot of the mountain. In a sacred ritual, faithful drove the mountain anti-clockwise in vehicles strapped with blue ribbons. In the process, they stopped 7 times at various locations to pray. Traditional Agikuyu believe that God lives on the mountain, and the spokesman of the group, Professor Samuel Kanitha, called on Kenyans to hold dear their culture and their traditions. Across the borders now, Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni has said Ugandan troops will remain in South Sudan until Juba is secure. Ugandan troops have been in South Sudan where they went on the invitation of the Sudanese government. But as KTN's Edith Kimani reports, the presence has drawn sharp criticism from rebel leader and former Sudanese Vice President Riek Machar.
When fighting broke out in South Sudan last year, South Sudanese President Salva Kiir requested military backing from the Ugandan government. Yoweri Museveni honored the request, and Ugandan troops have been fighting alongside the now ruling Sudan People's Liberation Movement. Uganda says its troops will remain in South Sudan until Juba is secured by other regional troops. I think Ethiopian forces are already there, Yoweri Museveni said in a press conference on Friday. And Rwanda is there. Once they are ready and can ensure that at least Juba is not affected, then we shall go back. There is no big issue. But former South Sudanese Vice President Riek Machar sees it differently. In fact, the ex-deputy has threatened before to not continue with negotiations until the Ugandan troops pull out of South Sudan. But the South Sudanese government's position has been clear and unwavering. We cannot bow to Machar's pressure over Ugandan troops, South Sudan Vice President said in June. We are sovereign. We are free to invite any force from any country. Ugandan troops should not withdraw simply because the rebels' leaders have said so. South Sudan has been in strife since December last year, when President Salva Kiir claimed his sacked deputy turned rebel leader Riek Machar organized a coup. The fighting now threatens to spill over into a second year, despite the two warring sides twice announcing to the world they were committed to a peace deal. The country is preparing for its general elections next year. Edith Kimani, KTN.
It seems that General Electric's move to build locomotives in the region is paying off, as railway operator Rift Valley Railways says it expects to double its cargo capacity by next year from 150,000 tons to 300,000 tons once the 20 new locomotives start operating. operating the Mombasa-Uganda line, beg your pardon. RVR Regional Head Engineer Oliver Omondi says the arrival of the new fleet will greatly improve cargo offtake from Mombasa to other destinations. The head engineer was speaking at the Kenya Ports Authority berth number 10, where RVR received 3 more locomotives from General Electric. The locomotives are part of the fleet of 20 bought by RVR at a cost of 2.2 billion shillings.
Doubling the capacity of the fleet, the cargo carrying fleet. So this is going to be a very huge impact when we finally receive all the 20.
Now, a suspected robber from Ragati-Kieni in Nyeri County died after being electrocuted. According to residents, the deceased was in a group of 3 men alleged to have been terrorizing residents by stealing their livestock and breaking into their business premises. The residents say that the deceased had gone up the high-voltage electricity mast in an effort to escape from an angry mob that had already burned to death one of his accomplices. They allege that the gang had on Thursday night stolen beer from a proprietor at the local shopping center and escaped with an unknown amount of money.
Mmoja ameuliwa huko. Sasa huyu mwingine akakunja akajihanga hapa juu.
The athletics governing body, Athletics Kenya, had previously been the benchmark for sports federation excellence until this year when the wrangles played out in public, with various branches calling for the resignation of the president, Isaiah Kiplagat. On his side, however, Kiplagat says he has chosen to focus on the positives.
The year 2014 has been very eventful for athletics, both on and off the track, with, of course, doping allegations and wrangles at Athletics Kenya overshadowing brilliant performances by Kenyan athletes at various global championships.
I sat with the AK Supremo to discuss the season that was.
In my own words, I think 2014 was really a great year for us in athletics. It was very successful because all the outings that athletes took part in were very, very successful and exciting. The people that are talking out there, they have never been able to say what they are quarreling about. It's a succession issue. It's nothing more than that. Because if you look at the issues they're raising, there is nothing. So let them size themselves so that by the time I leave, we know who can step in. Even in the African tradition, nobody can go to the granary and remove everything that is in it. You have to leave something for a rainy season. My aim was to put that money flow that money to some other income-generating developments, so that in the next 3 years, the Federation can stand on its own. Yes, I am. I'm one of the candidates. As you know, that Lamin Diak, the current president of IF, is an African, and he relinquished his position next year. So Africa has to offer at least a candidate for the vice presidency position. I know that's a domestic issue, and it does not affect my chances. I'm looking forward to reliving it and see. But what I don't want is just to throw my towel now. I think we cannot just leave it go like that. We have to guide it to an extent that when it is I have to hand over properly so that the Federation's life continues. During my time, we built athletics from zero. We have created a brand, Athletics Kenya, which is now rated as the best in Kenya. We have, we have professionalized Athletics Kenya. You will always be criticized. Nobody is beyond criticisms. You can be as good as you are, but they also say you got nothing. Nobody cares about something which is nothing. But if you have something, people talk about something. They don't talk about nothing. So I think I'm something. That's why people talk about me.
Now, the first venues for the 2016 Rio de Janeiro Olympics will be completed by August or September next year, the city's mayor promised on Friday during a site visit. Mayor Eduardo Paes was speaking at the enormous Olympic Park that covers an area of 1.18 million square meters, 30 kilometers west of Rio de Janeiro.
Brazil just recently hosted the FIFA World Cup amid protests due to the event's economical effects. The country will, however, be welcoming the world to its capital in less than 2 years for the Olympic Games. The first venues for the 2016 Rio de Janeiro Olympics will be completed by August or September next year, according to the city mayor. Amid the bustle of lorries and cranes that whip up clouds of dust and in sweltering heat, the site at Barra da Tijuca, west of Rio, has come on considerably in recent months, although most of the infrastructure will not be in place until only a few weeks before the Games, which will run from August 5th to 21st in 2016. Construction of the stands at the tennis venue is almost finished, and the roof of Carioca Arena 3, which will host taekwondo, fencing and Paralympic judo, is being installed. Meanwhile, 70% of the underground infrastructure, fiber optic network, lighting, drainage and sanitation are in place. The only site which is behind schedule by 3 weeks is the velodrome, but the organizers have assured that the delay could easily be made up. The City Council has calculated the total budget for the Games at 11.3 billion euros, promising that there will be no surcharges, with 57% of the cost being financed privately. More than 1 million Brazilians took to the streets to protest in 2013 and 2014 against the high public cost of organizing the World Cup, demanding that more money be invested in health, transport and education. When complete, the local organizing committee is confident that Rio will host successful and memorable Olympic Games. Lane Washira, KTN Sports.
Hosting 2 major sporting events in a space of 2 years is no mean feat for any country. Let's see whether Brazil's economy can take the punch. Now, British boxer Amir Khan plans to donate a £30,000 pair of shorts to help rebuild the Pakistan Army-run school where 141 people were killed by the Taliban. Khan, who is of Pakistani heritage, wore the flamboyant shorts, including a waistband made from 24-karat gold threading, when he successfully defended his WBC welterweight title against Devon Alexander in Las Vegas last weekend. The 28-year-old became a father in May when his daughter Lamaisa was born, and he was keen to do something to help following the tragic events in Peshawar, which saw 132 children and 9 members of staff killed in an attack. Khan plans to rebuild the school and strengthen security.
In this time of distress, to stand by the Pakistani nation, I've traveled to Pakistan despite security threats to prove that sport and education is the way forward. I'm willing to offer the government of Pakistan my support and the stakeholders. If they need any help, I'm here for them.
Very commendable there. Let's go on to some news from the Premiership. Jose Mourinho's Chelsea will face off with Kenyan Victor Wanyama's side when the Barclays Premier League pace setters visit Southampton. Tottenham Hotspur will open tomorrow's account against Manchester United in an earlier kickoff. Look out for some of them from KTN coming next week as we do our year-end special. Look out for that coming towards the end of this year, probably on New Year's Eve. We'll let you know the time and the date, so you stay tuned. I'm John Alanamu. Thanks for watching KTN Weekend Prime. Enjoy the rest of your evening as well as the rest of your weekend. Good night.